It's called New Orleans bread pudding, but a friend of mine kind of changed it up a little bit, and he makes it with Panettone. Who I am is Butch Milbrandt. What I do for a living is grow grapes, oversee the winery. The cooking part is a release, be able to prepare a dish and people enjoy it. My second passion is aviation. My third passion is motorcycles.
Have you checked the oven? I can smell
I need to check that. Excuse me. Today we're going to whip up a dessert that's a favorite of mine. I always love bread pudding. And this one has kind of been created by a good friend of mine, and he decided that Panettone Italian Christmas bread does a great job of making a bread pudding. So, you know, bread pudding is good any time of the year. I mean, if you go to New Orleans, you're going to eat bread pudding all year round. It's just like the dessert of the city. What I try to do is I usually cut this crust off, and you can see this is just, it's almost like fruit cake, but don't think of it as fruit cake. It's just way more delicious. Cut the bottom off. And you want it to be all, you know, pretty much of a color. So you can tear it if you want to. I kind of like slicing it because all the square edges give extra room for the custard to hide in. Just cut it up and transfer it to a cookie sheet for the meantime. The smell is so good. It's so much citrus in it. You can see it has raisins, currants. So then you need to make up a little custard, which is going to be 3 eggs. Add a 1.5 cups of sugar. We'll add a couple teaspoons of vanilla to this, and the milk. Sugar, eggs, milk. And then we just put the bread in this mixture and let it soak up all that deliciousness. And we'll come back and stir that once, make sure everybody's getting their equal portion. Press it down, make sure that everything is getting wet. So that'll be 15 minutes or so soaking. So in the meantime, to this pan, we're gonna add about 3 tablespoons of butter. And I got a hot oven here, so I'm just gonna slip this in the bottom of the oven and let that butter melt. And that'll kind of grease the pan. So when we put this in there, it'll be ready to go. So these ingredients are doing nicely. I want to just turn this over to make sure that everything on top goes to the bottom. And just kind of press it down so everybody's in the bathtub here. So this is ready to put in the pan with the hot butter. Dump it in there, kind of even it up a little bit. These pieces that are kind of sticking up out of the way, that's fine because those will brown a little bit and give it a little more character. So you don't really need to push it all down flat. So this is ready for the oven now. We'll just slip it in there, a 350-degree oven for about an hour. And they say if you go to New Orleans and you can't decide which restaurant to eat in, you just go around to restaurant after restaurant and order the bread pudding. When you find the best bread pudding, then sit down and order your meal because that's going to be the place to eat. The whiskey sauce that tops this is the ultimate part of this recipe, but it takes a certain amount of work. A cup of sugar, a stick of butter. There's going to be an egg goes in this as well, so we need to whip this egg a little, beat it a little bit, just break it up. So you can see this is going to be a fairly rich sauce. A cup of sugar, a stick of butter, and then the important part, about 1/4 cup of good whiskey. You can see that sugar starting to break down, starting to dissolve. Then we'll add the egg off of heat, whip it into there, and then add the whiskey and stir it a little bit, and we're ready to serve. We'll take this off the heat, let it rest, and we'll get back to the bread pudding. It's been about an hour, practically, and you can see it is beautiful. You know, nice color to it. It's a little jiggly yet. I don't think it's quite finished. No, I think I'll give it another few minutes, not long, maybe 5 more minutes or so. So we're going to pair this with our 2013 Traditions Riesling, and it's going to be very nice, I think, with this bread pudding and this whiskey sauce. I mean, what could be wrong with the whiskey sauce and Riesling? Those things have got to go together, right? We do make another Riesling called Sweet Katherine's Cuvée, named after our mother, and it is probably 4.5% residual sugar, so it has a fair amount of sweetness to it, so it would probably work very well with that. So we got Panettone bread pudding here, and we're going to put it on a plate and create some whiskey sauce. It's right here in this pan. So you get the egg incorporated into the sugar and the butter, starting to smooth out. And then the most important part would be about 1/4 cup of good whiskey. So in this case, it's going to be 1/4 cup of wild turkey, 101. That should just bring out the flavor in that bread pudding. Or at least it'll make you happy, you know? The right aroma of nice, warm whiskey. So we'll just top this bread pudding with it. There. That's gonna be a party in your mouth. Something else I like to do with bread pudding are a lot of different things. You know, people really like desserts, but they like them in smaller amounts, I think. A big chunk of chocolate cake is kind of off-putting, but a couple of bites of chocolate cake everybody would like. So what we like to do at home is serve desserts on this type of about a 10-inch long rectangular plate. We use a little tomato paste can and cut things like bread pudding and plate them on this little platter. There, so you have, everybody gets a little individual serving of bread pudding, so a little whiskey sauce. Oh, that smells so good. And then this could be a creme brulee, and this could be a chocolate ganache, and then people get little samples of dessert. They really enjoy it. So that's another idea of how you can serve dessert and, you know, not overfeed people, but really make it interesting to them and give them different flavor profiles to pair with wines.